Hey guys, hello and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, we are going to talk about important tools to write the best speech ever, which is an important question in your IGCSE English paper. So before we start with the class, if you have not yet followed me on my Instagram handle, do not forget to do that. Also, hit that like and subscribe button because I'm pretty sure you are going to love this video wherein I have condensed all the information, all the rules, templates, structures, styles to write the best speech for your IGCSE English paper. So let's move on to my screen now. Okay, before we begin, you have to grab a pen and a paper for taking notes. Make sure you make a separate notebook for my master classes. I make sure I try to release it at least 4 to 5 times in a week. My target is to release it every day, but minimum you can consider that 4 to 5 times in a week. I definitely release all my master classes. Secondly, sit in a distraction-free room. It's important because if you have to focus, learn, you should be sitting in a distraction-free room. Going on to the first slide, before I start with the technique of speech writing, let's understand this famous quote that I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Understand this quote to the depth, and this is exactly what you should have in your mind when you are writing your speech. You should try and understand the audience's perspective, and most importantly, be empathetic. When you read the speech, you should be able to feel what audience is going to feel and what a person likes to be felt as: cared, loved, motivated, inspired. So all these positive adjectives, you have to make sure that your speech is giving out that vibe, that it is making the audience feel loved, cared, positive, inspired, motivated. All right. Before we start writing the speech, let's understand what do you mean by a speech. A speech is usually a formal spoken presentation for a particular purpose, often to persuade the audience to support an idea or to describe an interesting topic or an event. Most of the time, speeches are meant to motivate audience to take some action. So you have to first understand, if you would want to motivate somebody, you should be able to relate to that person. You can only relate to them if you are empathetic in your speech. If you get in their shoes, try to understand their perspective. Only in that scenario you will be able to motivate the audience. I hope I'm clear until here. Going on to the next part, that is your success criteria. It says that if you are asked to write a speech, the most important thing is that a strong sense of voice. What do you mean by this word, a strong sense of voice? When I say that, it is how credible the speaker is. Okay, credible the speaker is. What are his or her achievements? Whatever are his achievement, does it impact the audience? So what is the impact created by the speaker on the world or on the communities? Okay, so these are very important aspects. Now many a times we do not have these parameters with us while writing the speech. So it is important to establish them. How will you establish them? By using some anecdotes. What kind of anecdotes? Where you have taken certain decisions in some unusual scenarios, generally hardships, and what it has led to. That is your results. For example, let's say if I had to choose between international curriculum and national curriculum education, I was quite interested in international curriculum. But international curriculum was not very, it's basically people are not very aware of this curriculum in India. So it was a hard decision because most of the herd mentality, most of the educators, they are inclined towards national curriculum. Of course, it is taking much more efforts and hardship to get even one subscriber on my YouTube channel because the topic is quite niche. People are not, it's not targeting mass audience, it's targeting niche audience. But that is what my expertise is. That is what I believe in. That is the system I believe in, and that is the reason I'm doing that. When I said all these things, did you feel that it's worth watching her video? Exactly. I developed a sense of credibility for what I'm doing right now. Exactly the same and that was a personal anecdote. That is a real life incident. That is a struggle that I go through every day. The rate at which my channel grows is pretty low than what it should be because my audiences are very few. But I'm okay to target few, but to target in the right way and give out what I am expert in. That is, my expertise is in international curriculum. Okay, so that is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Similarly, you have to establish your credibility to the audience. That is very, very, very crucial and important aspect. Okay. Next part is a simple technique used by great writers, and that technique is called as spam. Of course, the word spam is generally connects us to a negative word in our head, but here in this case, let's understand what this acronym means. S stands for situation. So you have to understand what background information am I given. So this is based on the text that you have. Okay, whatever insert you have to read it carefully. When you read it implicitly and explicitly both, in that case you will be able to reach to deeper understanding of the logic behind what the writer is trying to tell you, and based on that you can build your own speech. Of course, you do not have to copy paste from the text there, but you can use it as the base to trigger your thought process. Next is your purpose. Why am I writing? So basically, what impact it's going to create. So currently, if I am imparting international education on my channel, it is going to help the students who cannot access to these lessons through my videos, through my courses. Okay, and might be the audience is pretty niche, but that is what I am excellent and expert in, and I love doing that, and that is the reason I'm doing it. So that is impact. What kind of impact I'm leaving on my community? You have to talk about that. You have to think about it. Before you speak, you have to think. Always remember, things happen twice in our lives. So one is in our head and the second time in reality. So you have to understand, first you should be able to think about it, and only then you will be able to execute the things. Okay. Audiences, of course, extremely important. So when I talk about audience, you have to think about the dialect. You have to think about the demography. You have to think about the profession. You have to think about the age group. And based on these things, you have to use the tone, the vocab, the structure, and most importantly, the examples. If I take an example, if I give you an example of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I'm sure most of you are aware of that novel, isn't it? That comic, actually. But if I give an example of Warren Buffett, as far as my experience is concerned, most of the students are not aware of who is he. There are a couple of very few interested students, especially from business background, who has taken up business studies, commerce. They are pretty interested and they are aware of him, but most of the students are not. But when I say Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I can relate to most of you. Okay, so that is important. You have to choose the examples which will help you to relate to your audience. And how will you know that? When you know about the dialect, the demography, the age, the profession of the audience you are speaking to. Okay, next, your mode. What am I writing? In this case, I am writing a speech, so it has to be as casual. I would say instead of casual, it has to be impactful and motivating. Even if you're trying to convey something very simple, nobody would waste time in listening to you, especially in the age and day when we have such a short attention span. People would love to listen to people through whom they are motivated in any way. It can be any sort of motivation. It can be motivation to just do good in life. It can be motivation to save the globe, global warming. It can be motivation to manage your finances well. It can be motivation to do your job well. It can be a motivation to teach well, whatever it is. But some motivation is required. Okay, very important. Now moving on to the next part, that are your rules. Now let's understand simple basic rules to write a very good speech. So first important rule is you cannot write, this goes without saying, when it is a speech, it has to come from your heart. And when it comes from your heart, you have to use the word I or we, which is, the tone should be first person. Own your speech. I always say that. When I say something, don't speak as if you have memorized a script and you're talking. Speak as if you are speaking from your heart. You are enjoying your speech. You are talking about your personal beliefs, which are quite relevant to the audiences. That is very, very important. So I am frequently addressing you are talking, because that is what I want you to be thinking while you're writing the speech as well. Don't think about that, yes, I have to write it and somebody else will read it. Write it as if how you will speak about the same. That is very, very important. Okay. Next rule is use direct address. When I say direct address, show the audience that they are included in your thought process. You are talking to them directly. How would you do that? You will ask them some direct question. You would ask them that if they are following up with what you are saying, you can ask them some rhetorical questions, okay, to persuade them to believe what you are saying, or to at least think about, give it a second thought, even if they are not convinced. Show empathy. If you do this, if you are using direct address, by default you are showing empathy in a subtle way. Of course, you will need to use a lot of other strategies to show empathy. But yes, when I am saying, are you guys following with what I'm saying? Okay, this is what I did. You have to be engrossed in what you're speaking, and same should be reciprocated from your audience as well. They should be engrossed in what you are talking about. I have linked some very good speeches by quite a few number of celebrities in the description below, and also I'll pin it in my comment. Just have a look at it. You will understand what I'm trying to tell you and figure out what are the parameters that I spoke about and what did you observe and how can you use it, because you will learn it only when you listen to a lot of speeches. Okay, more than what you say, make them feel good and motivated. I talked about it previously also. Motivation is the key to a very good speech. You have to keep them motivated, involved. Don't get to points directly, that I'll talk about it later. Project yourself as one of them. Start with an anecdote, establish credibility and trust. Again, anecdotes, that is your personal life experience, will help you to establish credibility and trust. Alright, the next rule says that clear topic sentences with separate points, ideas for each paragraph. Okay, you have to, of course, take up one topic per paragraph, but slide into the structure should be very good. Of course, I'm going to talk about some transitional phrases which will help you to write a very good structure. But don't be so clear that everything is open in the first introductory paragraph. Create some curiosity. As in, what are you going to talk about in the speech? For example, the speech that I have linked in my comment, it is by an Indian actress whose name is Priyanka Chopra. Now she starts her speech like, she's going to give tools to be the best version of yourself. Of course, it's creating that curiosity. What are the tools? And it is credible because we are listening to a person who is quite credible, who has achieved a lot in her life and quite motivational, inspiring person. So when she says that I'm going to share something which is very close to my heart and which I have applied in my life, it is creating that curiosity. So try to build up that curiosity in your introduction. Very important. Give a reality check yet hope. Very important. Of course, give a reality check. Like in the speech which is linked in the comment, she talks about the failure. So everybody fails. But again, she says that I hate failing. That's a reality check. Everybody fails. But she's saying, I hate failing, and I get up, and dive into my life immediately after I am done with all the sobbing and crying and whatever she's doing. So she is trying to give a hope that yes, there is something beyond failure, and if you are going through that phase in your life, don't give up, because that is what you do after you fail decides who you will be and what you'll do in life. Stay relevant. Very important. If you're talking about 12 rules for your career, please don't get into acting career. She never talked about her acting career. She talked about something which is very relevant to the audience. They can relate to it, what she's saying. They can apply to that what she's saying in their lives. Make it funny if you can. It's not very easy. Frankly speaking, for me, making something funny is a task. I am a very serious person and I like speaking to the point, but if you can, laugh a little and speak a little. But in writing, you don't have to do that. You can add some humor in whatever way possible. Add that. Motivate, inspire, and then persuade. Don't directly go and persuade people to believe you. First motivate them, inspire them, develop that credibility, and then persuade them to take an action that you would want them to take. At the end, persuade them with an action. Persuade them to take an action. Okay? Alright. Next thing is, use some informal language, shorter sentences, questions to keep your audience interested. Do not use jargons. Do not use extremely high level vocabs. Use relevant terms. Use the idioms or phrases to speak more in less words. Okay? These are some important stuff. Add rhetorical question, add some memory, keep it casual, keep the target audience in mind. Discuss maximum 3 to 4 points in your examination. 3 to 4 relevant, non-repetitive, and the third thing is relevant, non-repetitive, and specific points. Okay, next is write punctuation for effect. Use question marks, use questions, use exclamations. Use it. Play with your vocabulary as much as you can. Do not overdo. Don't put too many exclamation in the same paragraph. Use one per alternate paragraph is fine. Use colons. Use literary devices, figure of speech, metaphors, similes, personification. Simple, at least use the simple ones if you can't play around with the challenging ones. Of course, I'm going to take a separate class for figurative language, figure of speeches and literary devices. So we'll talk about it in my further classes. Hyperbole helps you to specify pointers, exaggerate sentences. If you want to persuade them to do something, exaggerate a little. It will help you to show the audience that how much you believe in what you're saying right now, and that is very important. Next is language techniques. This is a very simple technique. Perfect. Perfect. Personal anecdote. Emotive language. I would also like to add empathy. Rhetorical question. Facts and statistics. Exaggeration, which is hyperbole. Comparisons and also contrast. Rule of three adjectives to to specify or to exaggerate a particular point, like he was tall, he was dark, he was smart, whatever it is, his feature. He was tall, he was talented, he was smart, whatever. Use 3 adjectives of similar tones. You can also use alliteration to focus, like, in the speech that I've linked below, she talked about fearless, flawed, and she used one more thing. I completely forgot about it. You can let me know in the comment section after you watch that speech, which I have linked in the description. Next is your simple structure of your speech, which is very simple but very important. Introduction should be attention getter, which is, again, I'll repeat, create a curiosity. Previews the topics and the main ideas, but don't directly get to the point, okay? But yes, don't even keep it too vague and, unclear. Establish credibility as a speaker, as I talked about. How will you do that? Add some anecdotes. Add some experiences and what kind of decisions you took while you experience those hardships in your life. Discuss main ideas, include subpoints along with the main points, okay? Make sure your main points are related to each other, so you can use transitional words, okay? Now, you include cohesive markers, check for coherence. And conclusion is sum up all your key points, give a good closing statement. You can also be giving a little bit of casual statement. Like, of course, after you close with the good action statement, you can say, I hope I have not bored you with my speech and there was something for you to take away from what I just said. It shows that you were so much considerate about their time, and that because they heard you out while you were talking. So that is important. It shows that you are considerate and you actually respect that people were listening to you when you were speaking. That shows that it is very casual, but it sounds good. Next is, okay, this was about the Steve Jobs speech. This is something what I would request all of you to do is, please watch the speech and see what is given here. Compare this speech with the speech that I have linked in the description. If you see, more or less people have similar styles that they follow, but they add their personal touch through anecdotes, through the way of speaking, through how they address the audience, and all these factors. Okay, now I think we are done with the class here, and I hope you all enjoyed watching my video and you have learned a lot from this video. Before we go ahead and say a goodbye until we meet next time in the next video tomorrow, I would want you to make sure that you have subscribed to this channel and hit that like button and followed me on my Instagram handle seen here. See you in the next class. Bye bye. Take care.